Today, I am so grateful to be joined by two of my favorite humans on the entire planet, Zach Spuckler and Tiffany Bymaster. Hello, everyone. I am so excited that you are here. So many of you guys have participated in our awesome 3-part video series this past week and a half, Profitable Programs. And we today just opened enrollment for the signature program, Programs That Profit, all about how to finally actually build, sell, and effectively run a high-level group coaching program. For those of you who haven't seen, you can go to heyjencasey.com/profit. The doors are open only for a few days. And to make this experience even more epic for you than it already is, because you've got the community, you've got the steps, the content, the coaching, we are sweetening this up a little bit, making it even more spicy for you guys. And today I am so grateful to be joined by two of my favorite humans on the entire planet, Zach Spuckler and Tiffany Bymaster. They are on today to chat with you guys. Like, we're just going to have a very candid, open conversation all about like all the launch things, all the entrepreneurship stuff, all the community stuff, all the stuff that we all need in our lives, conversations that we need to have. Like, for those of you who didn't see, I actually just finished up a live mastermind that I hosted this past weekend. And really the biggest takeaway for myself and for all the people that were there is just the importance of having a community of peers who can hold you accountable, lift you up, talk through all the crazy shit of entrepreneurship with. And like these two people right here are two of my people. Like, without them, like, not only would this launch been a hot mess, but just like my brain. So
launch
Tiffany,
brain.
Yeah, launch brain. Tiffany and Zach, thank you guys so much. I just love you guys the most. Thank you for coming on. Do you want to like introduce yourselves real quick?
Go ahead, Zach.
Sure. So my name is Zach Spuckler. My company is Heart, Soul, and Hustle, and we work with digital-based businesses, course creators, group coaching program creators who are looking to scale their launches beyond the 5-figure mark. So we run two facets of our business. We have a high-touch coaching consultancy program where we work with people one-on-one. And then we also have an agency where we run Facebook ads for people, and we help them basically attract leads, close those leads, retarget those leads, and do all the fun stuff with Facebook ads. So that's me.
Yeah. And Tiffany, you just finished up a launch. Zach, you were helping us. Zach was helping to run our ads. His agency was running our ads for this launch. Tiffany, we've been like going through all the launch stuff together. So fill us in a little bit about who you are.
I am Coach Glitter on the in the interwebs, online on Facebook, Instagram, and my website. But my real actual name is Tiffany Bymaster. And I'm obsessed with helping online business owners become wildly successful, grow their audiences, hone in on their messaging, and do that in such a way where we show up as who we are authentically through the power of live video. And I love what I get to do. Just a few years ago, the way that I first met Zach, the way that I first met Jen, I was working offline. I had an offline business for 20 years as a highly sought after professional makeup artist, wardrobe stylist, and set designer. You guys can see my very messy set back there. But I did that for 20 years with some really big names out there. No one knew what I sounded like, what I looked like, let alone like any of my ideas or thoughts. And apparently, until I got into my 40s, I didn't even realize I had those. So it wasn't until I built my online business that, oh my gosh, a whole new world, like Ariel said, opened up for me. And I met these amazing people, and I get to do life with these amazing people. And I get to like create businesses alongside amazing people who are like my dream clients. And I love helping other people do that as well by showing up with live video.
Yes, I love it. So I would love to just kind of like have just a candid conversation. If you guys are watching live, feel free to say hello, tell us where you're watching from. And I want this to be interactive. I want you guys to be asking questions and really just having a conversation. Because just from even this last weekend, I think that was the most powerful thing. Like, I walked in, I was like, I'm an open book, whatever you want to know, whatever you want to ask me. And it was like, whoa, to be able to have that level access and that type of conversation with people who are doing what you want to do, like, hello, take advantage of this moment, guys.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear from you guys, like, just even with launching, because really one of the things that, you know, we're talking about in the grand scheme of the program, and then the things that you guys are adding to it, it's all interconnected to launches. Like right now we're on live. That's Tiffany's zone of genius. Zach teaches ads. He used to teach all these other things that were more of the front end components of launching, but launching's changing. It is changing so fast. And I would love to just hear from you guys, because you know, both of you guys blew up on Periscope and that shit's gone. So like
we both laugh. We're like, here is my, okay, so I'm a little obsessed with bling. I used to have a business. Look at that, you guys. It's on my desk. It says Glitter Scope because that's what I called I almost bought the domain. Good thing I didn't waste my $21 a year on that. But look at that. I spent time blinging one stone at a time, this very old, now 5-year-old Scope bottle, because
guys, that is a money-making activity.
Okay, but that's what I did. That's what I started off. I used to actually bling a lot of stuff. I had so many businesses. I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 5. But I used to bling stuff for people. I was like blinging their Nikes. We wore these terrible body bug bands. You guys remember that? I got huge. People on The Biggest Loser were wearing them.
What?
I put crystals on him. I sold them for $150. I'm very scrappy. I made so much money doing that. But it was like one at a time, one crystal at a time, until I literally started going blind. I was like, holy crap, I can't see anymore. But I did that for years. You guys didn't know this?
No, I feel like every time I talk to you,
so many pictures.
Oh my God. I feel like every time I talk to you, I find out that you had another like kind of interesting, weird, like you did probation or parole or
I was a probation officer when I started off right out of college. I mean, obviously, but the whole time I was a stylist and did makeup, but I didn't think it was like a real job. And then it turned out to be a real job. So
yeah. And Zach, you had like businesses at 13.
Yeah, I've done everything from website flipping to all the domains Tiffany didn't buy. I own them and I flipped them and I sold them and I've built websites for people. And if you can do it, if you can do it online, I've probably made $1 trying it.
Wait, you guys crack me up. And I think that this is so important because there's so many people who look at you guys now and go, and think that, you know, they've been in entrepreneurship for 4.5 minutes and that they're supposed to be at the level of success that you are. And it's like, no, this is like 15 years of failed everything.
Yeah. It's 20 years of being more than 20 years of being a business owner offline. But today, what the cool thing is that there's very little blurred lines between offline and online. There's no like clear distinction. If you have a business, why would you not be in the online space? And so there might be, you know, I still have offline businesses. I still do affiliate marketing with offline brands that I really don't promote that much online. I am doing a ton of consulting this year, more than ever. I still have a handful of clients that I get to choose to work with that I style, like Amy Porterfield, like really cool people that I don't have to do that work, but I get to. And it's because of the exposure that I continuously get. Like during my online launches, for things that have nothing to do with my online launch, that is when I get the most offers for other opportunities because of the visibility. Like if whatever, regardless of what it is that you're doing, when you really start to open up your eyes to how many amazing possibilities are there, and then the more exposure you have, which is heightened during a short period live launch, oh my gosh, this is when I get all my offers. Like they're like weird stuff's coming in and I'm like welcoming it. And things like consultations and things like, you know, just collaborations with like the beauty side and the fashion side, which I still do, but I get to pick and choose. It happens because why? Exposure. Like when you're showing up, like normally, you know, we have peaks and we have seasons. Like we have to, like Jen and I, we're probably going to need to take a nap for about a month.
December is my off month.
I know, I'm going to I need to go to Bali. That was the plan. I don't know what's going to happen right now, but we can design our lives that way. And Zach, do you remember the first time I was on your podcast years ago? He's like, no, I talked about.
We talked about affiliate marketing without a list.
Yeah, I had no list. I started in affiliate marketing, but I called it Hit Hustle. And I still, to this day, as much as I know and all the systems that I have, and I now have a team, a little, tiny, mighty team, but it's a great team that's been with me for going on 3 years now, that I talked about it on your podcast. It was one of the first interviews I've ever done. And it was about I call it Hit Hustle, just like a workout, like a HIIT, HIIT, high intensity interval training, where you sprint for a short period of time because you can't maintain that pace for very long. Same with business. Like, I don't like the hustle mentality, but at the same time, I don't know how you start. And even where we're at now, there are very short periods of hit hustle. And I think like the word hustle, which is funny and ironic because Zach's company's name is Heart Soul Hustle, but that makes so much sense because for the last few years, like the word hustle has it's become the F word. But I'm like, let's be real. There's a lot of people who preach don't hustle, but they sure did hustle a whole lot when they first started off. Every single one that I can think of. And so like people were hating on Gary Vee, but he's kind of right most of the time. He is. And I'm like, I like what he has to say. I don't have to adopt it and I don't have to be as exhausted as he is. And I know other people who literally just sold their companies for $1 billion and they admit to working 100-hour weeks for 10 years. I don't want to be a billionaire at the expense of 100-hour weeks for 10 years, but I love what I get to do now. But I'm never going to paint this story that there's no hustle, that there's no hard work. There's peaks of it. Money flows to me, all the things, abundance and everything, manifest everything. At the same time, there's a lot of grinding in there too.
Dude, I'm so glad you're saying this because I think it really has become this like taboo thing to say. And so many people have pivoted the total other way. But it's exactly that. Like, yeah, the people who are not hustling anymore, it's because they did hustle and they're not in that season of their business anymore because they've put systems in place, because they've hired team members and they've evolved as a business owner. But even if you try to sit there, I feel like, and tell a new entrepreneur, you need a team, you need this, you need that, you can run Facebook ads and, grow so much faster. They're like, no, I just want to do it myself. Like, I don't have the money yet. And like, there's so many stories and things. And I, in some ways, do feel like that kind of is a rite of passage. It's like, if you can hack it and you can figure it out from there, like you'll be here in 5 years.
I mean, that first year, I think the first 18 months are the ones where, I mean, like if you look back, and I think it's so important as coaches, we're all coaches in different capacities for different things. But if we really look back at where we were the first 18 ugly months of our business, we're probably not doing the same thing we were doing back then at all. But it got us, I look at it like little pebble stones, little stepping stones that help you get to the other side. And once you get to the other side, you're just trying to like, oh, there's another side. And so it's just all those little steps gets us to where we are. And I know in 5 years, I'm not going to be doing what I'm doing now. I have no idea what it is. And I love what I'm doing now, but I know it's not going to be the same thing. And that's such a good thing. And that's how we evolve and grow and figure it out. Like, I think this is what life is about. It's not just business, but it's life. Like, what do we love? Who do we love to work with? How do we become more unapologetic? How do we become like, for me, the biggest thing until I feel like 5 minutes ago was like showing up unapologetically with what I really think, with what I really say. And in the beginning, you're like, can you fog up a mirror? Great. You can work with me. I just want to work with anybody that'll work with me. And now I'm like, it is hard to work with me. I'm like, be exclusive. But to get to that point, you got to figure out, who do I want to work with? Like, what captures their characteristics, the way they show up. And it's not like a certain look or personality, but it's like who they are in essence, like really capturing and knowing who that person is. Then you're like, oh my gosh, I just need 10 more people like that or 100 more people like that. And you fall in love with your work, but it is messy in the beginning when you're first starting.
I think we need to talk about that because I actually want to hear from you guys. Like, I know I had kind of different phases of my business where it was a little bit stop and start, or like I can look back now and say like, oh, that was when things really clicked in, or oh, that's when like this big shift happened. And I know when I first was like, I'm going to sign up for a network marketing company. The first 18 months, I think I, made like 5 sales and 3 of them were to my mom. Like she was like, I'll be buying from you to like make you feel better. And like, it was just a hot mess. My first attempt at marketing myself, because I had no idea how to show up on social media, was printing off ugly pick art flyers, trying to sell my network marketing shakes. And I hung them all over my college campus and went around the next day, really excited to see how many people, I did like the thing where you sit there with the scissors and you cut the little tabs. You make the little tabs, the little rippy tabs. And I was like, I'm going to go back tomorrow and they're all going to be gone. It's going to feel so good. And I truly believe that was what was going to happen. And I was not only mortified, but devastated when I went back and all of them were gone, because I guess the custodian took them down because they weren't part of the college campus bulletin board, whatever. Like I wasn't allowed to put them up. And I just remember like, I was like, my hopes and dreams are crushed. Like I guess I'll hang them on like stoplights. Like where else can I hang these posters? Like where can I go? I went on Zazzle or something and created these completely ugly business cards with like a selfie printed on them, like a crap selfie. It was like bright pink and it had all the swirly fonts, and it was
like
called
the rite of passage.
Oh wait, I think I have bright pink swirly font business cards somewhere.
I threw mine away, but everybody's got them.
wish-
The first box of business cards.
I really,
Where the heck were they?
at my parents' house, there's probably a box of like the early days back when I was in college, like that got shipped there. It's probably somewhere in a drawer. I feel like I'm hoping right now, because that would be so damn funny. Like that would be amazing to share. But yeah, like that was where I started. And I just like I try not to get frustrated with newer entrepreneurs, because I remember what that was like. And yet I think there's so much more information out there today. And I also think there's a level of entitlement. Like I'm just going to call it out. There's a level of entitlement for newer entrepreneurs before they recognize how much work it takes. Right now, they don't know what they don't know. And it's this kind of idea of like, why isn't this happening sooner? Why isn't this happening faster?
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta get in the shit first. Like you have, like, it's just part of rite of passage. But Zach, you were like, oh, I got some stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think what has happened was with the internet is like everything is so quick and fast and accessible and easy that we forget that like business has existed in this iteration for years and years and years. Yeah. And like a lot of people, like it's so funny, and I always have mixed feelings about this. People are like, the course industry is set to make $1.8 gajillion this year, right? And like I don't know, but I've heard that stat a million times from a million different people on a million different webinars. About courses and in different industries and from different people. And they're not wrong, but it's like, guess what? Before there was an internet, there were people hawking, come to the hotel for the free training, which was just a webinar. And before that, there were people selling audiobooks. And before that, there were people selling direct flight. Like business is business is business. And it's always been. And yes, the internet has made it more accessible. Like you still have to go through that iteration of like growing your business and growing your clientele and growing your roster. Like I used to do, a lot of people don't know this, I used to do freelance writing. And when I started, I was charging a penny a word. And when I finished, I was charging 5 to 7 cents a word, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're 16 years old, making what equates to $30 to $50 an hour because you amass clientele and you find retainer clients and you find people that are willing to pay more and you learn the intricacies of what writing is. It's like, what people don't get is that they see such a superficial stuff, and to kind of parallel it to launching is like, people are like, well, I can do a webinar. Yeah, but can you do Facebook ads? Can you do back-end management? Can you do team management? Can you do autoresponder management? Are you set up to take payments? Do you even have tax withholding? Are you withholding your own money for taxes? I can't tell you like how many people, like, this isn't a bad thing. It's just the truth. The first year you get your taxes, like when you've done it right, you're like, oh crap, I actually owe money because I'm working for myself and the government doesn't just take it away every time I get a paycheck. So like you sell a $297 course, you lose 3% to your processing fees, you lose 20% to taxes, you lose 30% to your team. And like people are running around being like, oh my gosh, digital products, no overhead. And it's, I don't know, maybe I'm getting way down a rabbit hole, but it's like there's so much that goes into building a business, which is not a product. And anyone can hawk a product. Not everyone can build a business, and building a business takes time.
Yes, that was something Tiffany and I have talked about, I think on live before, that having a revenue stream off of social media, whether it be for a course or your coaching services, it's not the same thing as running a business. And all the things, the taxes, the operations, like all the behind the scenes stuff, a lot of people are hiring coaches because they made a 10K month. And they're saying, look, everyone, I have 10K cash. And I'm like, that's not really what that means. Like they didn't profit 10K, like, or maybe they did, and they just need to clarify their language. But like, what are they actually walking away with? And what is being reinvested? What is going down the drain? Like, I just think there's just such a lack of, and it's not an intentional lack of transparency. It's just a lack of understanding of how a business is actually run. And I can say that because like, I'm still learning these higher levels of, you know, what it really takes to scale with a team and all the infrastructure and like the operation side. Like that's not my jam. Like I love the marketing, I love the coaching, but all that other stuff is not something that comes naturally to me. So it's like it is messy to learn, and the learning never stops.
Never.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
like new level, new devil, you learn. I'm always learning those things, especially with when you get to a certain phase. I think there's phases of business, like your first 18 months, fantastic. You survived. You got some bumps and bruises. You dust yourself off. And you're like, I made it. And now I can kind of understand what they're saying. And I think like in the marketing world, like in the last 5 years, the messaging has really changed. We saw a lot of those messages out there that are like, take your laptop to the beach every day, work half an hour, become a millionaire. Like we saw a lot of that. That's why Facebook like cracks down on ads now, because you can't paint that picture anymore. And I think that people tried that. They, you know, it brought in dabblers. It brought in anybody that could fog up a mirror and join my team or join my business or join my whatever. But it's a funnel in and of itself. Like a funnel, essentially, you're getting a lot of people in the door. It's really crowded in the beginning. But like anybody can be a starter, and it is easier than ever tech wise to set up your business. It really is. I don't think it's hard. Like it's like 6 steps, but to be actual business owner, to have a business that not only survives, but thrives and grows continuously year over year over year. This is where we're like, okay, we're not in the 18 months anymore. Now we're like, oh, this is a real thing. Now we're going to like really work on how our product delivers and getting into the messaging about who we are selective about working with, and then cleaning up the back end stuff, like having a real terms of services instead of doing what everybody does, which is copy and paste everybody else that you see out there and like duct tape your business together. You don't want to find out the hard way when someone sues you or someone that's, you know, something like that, where a lot of people learn the hard way. And so to be proactive about those things and be like, oh my gosh, there's liability and we love what we do and we're soul driven, but there's also business that needs to be done. And I feel like that's a lot of the things that I learned in year 2 and 3. That was beyond just the, oh, look, I made 100K my first year. Oh, look, I'm at 500K. And there's a lot to that. And when I look around our space, there's a lot of people bragging about a lot of big numbers, but revenue is not profit.
Yes.
And you could have a huge business, but are you going to have that business a year from now? Or are you going to have that business and your lifestyle? Like you're so burnt the F out that, again, I'm not willing to work certain hours to do certain things to make a certain amount, because that's not how I define happiness or success for myself. It might be right for somebody else. It's right for some of my friends, but I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to sacrifice it. And can you have it all? I don't know. Maybe, but I personally haven't found that you can have it all without making sacrifices. And some of them are worth it. You got to figure out which ones are worth it for you.
Mm.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think you brought up such a good point, which is like you figure it all out in year 2 or 3. And it's like, I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they think there is this magic formula or this magic figure it out. Like we use profit first, which I love and adore. And I think it's fantastic. And it's never hindered my business or success. But I know people who are like, oh, using profit first is the downfall of every successful business.
Well, wait, for people who don't know what profit first is.
Yeah, profit first is really a fancy way of saying withholding money that comes in for certain allocations. So every time I make $1, when $1 hits my bank account, 30% goes into a tax account, 20% goes into a payroll account, 20, I'm going to get the percentages wrong, but 20% goes into, or 30% goes into taxes, and then an operating expense, and then a profit account. So basically, by having a profit account, I guarantee that the business stays profitable because I'm withholding money that can't be spent on anything else. So you profit first. That's where the name comes from. But I've talked to people who rave about it and people who hate it. But there are literally 10, 20, 50, $100 million companies using it. And then there are 10, 20, $100 million companies that hate it. And it's not so much about profit first as it is about realizing that there's no magic formula, because Apple, I don't know firsthand, but I'm pretty confident that Apple is not using profit first. But then you can read the book and there are tales of $10, $20 million businesses using this system. And it's like, you have to realize that every system is just that. It's a system for the business it's designed for, and you have to adapt it to work for you. So like we adapt it for our business to also work for my retirement. So in addition to this, I also save for retirement, which like this could be a whole thing. So like pull the reins in if you need to, but like not enough entrepreneurs talk about that. Like how much is in your savings? Do you have 6 months of your savings put away? Like, yeah, you just bought something fancy, or you or you did the, the branding photo shoot in the big city that you flew out to, which is great and important. And it puts out this air of lux. But like, if your business closed tomorrow, like, could you actually survive for 3 months? Like, we get so wrapped up in trying to learn the formula that we forget about the back end of the business, about the back end of operating expenses, about the back end of having living expenses. Like I always say, like, if my business is closed, I'm good for a year or so at least. And like, that's a way more comfortable feeling to me than being like, I had a 100K launch where everything looks really fancy. So that's like my personal pet peeve. So I'll be quiet and let someone else.
No, I love that. I don't do profit first. It's just like, we just don't. I don't love it for digital businesses, but if you love it, you make it work. And that's the big argument for and against it. And I know a lot of us, like in our mastermind, we're like, we hate it. We love it, but just have something. Like with us, we put everything back into the business. I pay myself like the minimum you can get away with legally for like to pay a salary. But I've never paid myself a ton. We put it all back into the business, and we have different entities, and I created another one this year, and I didn't know about all that stuff. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was like, what's an entity? Why do I have to be an LLC? It's just me, Cause like when I freelanced in the production world, none of us did that. Most of us not. So, and then there was like some productions, cause we were on payroll for the show, like a TV show. They didn't allow us to be, they didn't even want us to be 1099 contractors, let alone our own entities. So it's like a weird thing in the production world. But so when I got into the online space, I had all these different umbrella businesses all separate. And we just like figured that out this year, how to like consolidate some of them. So it's always evolving. And that's one of the big milestones is like, oh, do I do an S corp? Do I do an LLC? I'm like, do something to protect yourself and get your business off of your personal stuff. So
yeah,
it's all phases. It's all phases of business. And, I see a lot of people ultimately, you want to get to that point where you're thinking about those things because so many people start and they give up so easily. Don't you guys see so many of your students? You just recognize potential, but they give up the second it gets hard.
Well, they get in their own way. They create
they get in their own way. It's not the systems and give me the blueprint and the framework. And people always want the scripts and give me like I can give you everything I do in my business. But if you don't have your head straight and your mind right, and if you're not willing to be gritty, like I think like business, you have to be gritty. We see so much of the highlight reel, and I love that we see less of that now. I think there's more real. Yeah. I think there's more authenticity. I think we show up more. I certainly do. I used to only show the highlight reel. I'm guilty of that. I helped create that kind of thing out in social media.
But that was also like back in 2015, 2016, like especially when Instagram, like the curated feed of all the photo shoot stuff, like that was what was doing well. That's what was getting
so fancy. I'm on set, and the real life is like I'm schlepping a whole bunch of crap since 6 a.m. this morning. I'm sweaty. I'm disgusting. Nobody cares about me, and I'm working 18-hour days on set. It's like super glamorous, but that's what I was doing. But you can paint the picture of behind the scenes with so and so and flashlights going, and and I was like, it was all BS. Like there are moments where there was a couple moments in my career where I'm like, this is awesome. But the rest of it's grunt work. And I think that really helped me set up. It was like those little pebble stones that got me to where I'm at today to like really love what I do now, because what I do now is amazing. I was in my pajamas until, 2 hours ago when Jen reminded me I'm doing this. I was like, I should shower. I should probably shower today because I worked out yesterday and worked out today. I probably could wash my hair today. Maybe, or like, okay. And like Zach messaged me the other day and FaceTimed me and showed me the fancy stuff he bought, which then planted the seed. And today my only goal was like do some work in the morning and then go to South Coast Plaza. And it didn't happen, but I'm going to go after this. And I want to buy something fancy because I just had a huge launch. But that launch there's a video on YouTube that I just sent to our coach James because he was looking for something. And it's this girl that's in like a college race, like on a track and field race. And she trips and literally people like step on her. And then she gets up and then wins first place. I was like, that is what my launch was like. This is the exact like video footage of my actual launch. And this was not my first rodeo. This is like my 10th launch of my one product. And I've done at least 15 launches, like big launches as an affiliate. So launching's not brand new to me, but you got to be gritty. And it's not that, you do 25 launches and it becomes like a cakewalk each time. Sometimes you trip and you fall and people step on you and you get up and you still get first place. That's the thing. And all we did for a while was talk about how we got first place. We didn't talk about falling down, being bloody and people stepping on you by accident. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how this last launch, I could have quit. We could have like said, everything's tanking. Nothing went right. Like everything that worked before. And everyone's always talking about, like what I did in my business, one product, go wide, perfect it, make it better. There's no such thing as perfection, but like we've been doing that. We went deep, we went wide, we didn't go vertical. And even on our 10th launch, I was like, this is the launch that the universe and God is really testing me to see if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Even into the 10th launch. And the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
But it really tested me. And there was one point, like heading into like the weekend before we did our first video, like live series, just like Jen did. My husband and I were at Trader Joe's. And I was like, everyone that works here looks really happy. And he's like, you wouldn't last a day, let alone an hour. Don't even think like that. Because you do. You're like, what would I do? And then you remind yourself, you are 100% not employable.
Yeah. Not employable.
I mean, that really is the sign of true entrepreneurship. Yeah. I know people say like anybody can be a business owner. I never say anybody's cut out to be a business owner. I think it takes a lot. You got to be gritty. You got to have the hustle at least some of the time. I have so many friends that you can use the excuse of I'm a busy mom. I have 4 kids. Well, I know someone who's a single mom with 14 kids and they adopted 15 of them. And like that, those numbers don't make sense, but you guys know what I mean? Like somebody that has less resources and advantages are figuring out, like they're working and making their podcasts in their, I call it the cloffice, their closet office. I have so many moms who are like hiding in the bathrooms to get like 30 minutes of work in, or like before they drive in, do 10 more minutes inside the car. Like they're making it happen and doing whatever it needs to take because they're that driven. They're that gritty. And I think that's what it takes.
Yeah. It is. And I think what you highlighted even with your own launch is that is the difference. That's what separates the people who last a couple months or a couple weeks or a year and the people who are still in the game 5 years later, 10 years later, who are dominating in the market. Like I love all my students. I just had one person in particular today, one student in particular share that she did a webinar and she, was feeling a little disappointed that she didn't get the 20 sales that she wanted. And she said, I only had 4 and we've done a lot of work on like reframing stuff already. And so, but she was still feeling bummed. And a lot of people in the group were jumping in and positively reframing her and saying, but it's 4, you got to celebrate the 4, blah, blah, blah. And I just turned around and I was like, and it's because you like basically she had already given up. She had already thrown in the towel. I was like, that's the problem. The problem is you've allowed yourself to get into this disappointed, disheartened state. That's the only reason why you haven't gotten 20 people in your program yet. Not because your webinar sucked, but because you haven't gotten up and said, okay, let me do another webinar and then another webinar and let me do another webinar and another webinar and do webinars until you don't know how to say the word webinar anymore and then freaking sell the seats. Like if you're giving up and you're allowing your negative state to like, because when we get into a negative state, everything feels like a problem. We ask shit questions and we get shit answers. And so we got some people watching live and my very good friend, Jennifer Connor, who was just with me this past weekend. She's a head results coach for programs at Profit. And she just went, and put a toilet and a poop emoji.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, that is everything.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things is like the digital business has really glamorized the end result and not the process. And so like, you know, and I also think that there's nothing wrong with the one-to-many model. I was in it for a really long time, and I'm actually pivoting from one-to-many to one-on-one, which the whole internet world is like, never do, that's backwards, right? But it's like when you're one-to-many, you perceive that you get to skip the hard stuff. So like working one-on-one, if a client's not getting the results they want, or like when we work with clients, like one of the things we do in our agency is when we're done, we say, what could we have done different for you? And like, that is a really hard question to ask, because most people don't go, nothing, it was amazing. They go, actually, let me tell you what you could have done differently, or let me tell you what I don't like, or let me tell you what's not great. And I have to, with most clients, hold up a mirror and say like, well, this is what we did poorly, and here's what we're going to do to fix it going forward. And so in the online course space, you get the luxury, or you perceive that you get the luxury of not having to deal with those people, or not having to deal with that criticism. And the reality is you're going to get emails. Like there are people who will do the work to find your phone number, to call you, to tell you that your course is the worst. And if it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. And like,
That's
you
happened
might be
to
like,
you?
oh yes. I had somebody find my personal phone number somehow, call me, tell me I was a scam, call me, tell me I was like I was horrible, and it sucked. And it's like, you perceive that you get to avoid all that, but you don't. There are parallels in the online course world that you still deal with that stuff, and you still have to go through the hardship, and you still have to go through the trials, and you have to work with people one-on-one. And I've worked with clients one-on-one who have gone on to do $360,000 launches. And I've worked with clients one-on-one who have gone on to quit their business and tell me that I'm a waste of space, right? And it's like, you know, that's a little dramatic. No one's ever called me a waste of space.
I was like, damn. Whoa.
They've strongly implied that I'm a waste of their time. And it's like, that stuff happens in business. And it's like, it's not about developing a thick skin. It's about realizing that what Tiffany was saying is like, it's gritty. It is gritty out there no matter what you do. And so many people get to see the fancy end result of like, I'm going to sell a digital product with no overhead, and I'm going to kill it, and people are going to love it, and everything's going to be amazing. And it's like, it's gritty out there, and it's only going to get worse as more people get involved. It's not going to get, yes, it's easier. Yes, it's lower barrier of entry. It's only going to get grittier as you have more competition.
Yep. And I think we were all talking about that, how it's just in certain industries and certain niches, it, like, I hate to tell people like, oh, it's more saturated, but I think it is getting more saturated, obviously, because it's easier to build and create an online course and do all of those things. And I also think it's a huge opportunity for all of us and everyone listening to use your skill set and really niche down and find that like super teeny tiny slice of the market that no one's speaking to, because that's where the money is. Like, that's where the people are like, finally, someone's speaking to me. Like, everybody's trying to go wide, and they're just glossing over all of these people who actually really need help.
And that's what, like, finding that little secret sauce that makes you different. Because someone just said in my brand new group that I just opened, like, I feel like I found my tribe, but also being in this group makes me feel like we're all doing the same thing. And I have to remind them, you guys are like 0.01% of the business that's out there, of the people that are doing different things in the business world. We're all here because we're like-minded. We attracted each other. And so it might feel that way, especially like when we do what we do. Oh my gosh, everyone's launching right now. Oh my gosh, everyone's targeting the same Facebook ads. And it might feel that way. That's the perception, but it's not true. It's because that's who we surround ourselves by, you know? We don't see the big picture when we're like in our little caves doing our work. And I felt that way too. And we had great conversations, Jen, about like, who else can we be targeting? Like, it's hard to find, like, you can't even target everyone that you think should be targetable in the first place. But there's so many other ways that when everyone's going after the same people to use ads, and Zach knows this, it's like, how do we get creative? And I think the thing that I know the thing that really helped me create more profitable launches, offering the same program over and over for 3.5 years. It's never the same though. I can't do it. I can't deliver it the same way, but essentially one core product for 3.5 years, I've been able to do it highly profitable because of exactly what I teach, is like doing this live video thing. I don't have to only have the option of targeting the way that everybody else is, if you're not creating custom retargetable audiences. And this is where I want to pull my hair out, because so many of the talented students that we have in our programs give up way too easily before they did everything. They haven't even started and they gave up already because it's too hard. Guess what? There are so many things that you haven't tried. And it's about trying and failing. Like, my whole goal in my business is to fail 85% of the time with my ads, with the content that I share. It's crickets most of the time, but I'm constantly experimenting. Ooh, I saw a great blog post today or yesterday. All my days are still like my brain, mashed potatoes, still recovering, still mashed potatoes. But you guys know that Malcolm Gladwell book, 10,000 hours to get to mastery. And they're saying, well, it's like, anything else. That's one way to look at it. But if you really look at 10,000 experiments to get to clarity and mastery and all the things that you want to create in your life, I love that, because I think that's what it takes. I think it takes 10,000 minimum experiments to figure out who's your audience, what is your core product. Like, the thing you put out the first time is not the thing you're going to be doing now. None of us do that now. Like, Zach was a vegan blogger, like when I first met him, and then he became like, he sold the first live stream program, but he's not doing that now. Ironically, I am. Like, it's crazy, right? It's funny. It is so funny. Like, it is funny because they know where I came from. Like, the irony, you guys, I was the girl that hid behind the camera. I made everyone else look and sound amazing on video. I was never the one in front. It is so ironic, but we usually teach the thing that we overcame, right? Because we overcame it. We could share our secret sauce, and to differentiate yourself from everybody. There's a lot of people teaching video. I know with full confidence, nobody teaches live video the way I do, because it's not even about live video. It's just the vehicle that we use. Has very little to do with live video. But like, experiment and fail 1,000 times so that you get that 15% win. That's my goal. Fail that many times. 85% of what I do, fail. 85% of our ads we test out, fail. 85% of our video ads, fail. 85% of the different like copy things that we do, fail, until we get to 15% that works. So worth the 85% failures. And if you reframe the grit it takes to do the 85% and not quit, dust yourself off when people step on you by accident, you fall in the race, you get back up and you still get first place, then because I really think there's a very small number of people who actually succeed, not because they're smarter, not because they're more talented, not because they're more gifted. It is simply because they didn't freaking give up. Yeah. I get in these moments where I'm like,
drop. I was like, we just need to take a moment, let that settle in, let our brains process that, enjoy that.
I mean, like, I'm with even mashed potato brains. That's like the thing that's on my heart the most right now, that I know, like, sometimes when I'm like bossy pants with my students, is that I'm like, I see so much potential in you guys, but I'm not going to do the work for you. I'm never going to be the coach that's going to tell you what to do. But like, part of it is, it's not a framework. It's not a script. You're not going to, like, people want a script for video. And I'm like, that's exactly not what works on live video, especially. Yeah. But like, to do the 80 to 85% experimenting, to show up and earn the right for people to find you interesting enough to stop their lives and watch you on video, to have people that read your blogs, whether they're short form or if you're still doing long form, okay. Or, why would anyone want to stop to read your Instagram post or watch your stories or watch your recorded videos or read your posts or share your posts? Like, why? Like, people have that audacity to like think just because they showed up that their audience should magically show up in really big numbers.
Sweating.
Right? And I'm like,
this is everything. Yes.
You got to earn that.
Yes.
You got to earn that. And it was zero for all of us. Remember all of our day zeros when I was like, okay, I thought, like, especially like Instagram and Facebook, where we create this post and a beautiful image maybe that goes with it, and you're like, this is a masterpiece. And then you're like, send.
And then you go refresh.
Like, why aren't 200 people liking this? And it's so surprising what hits with people. And sometimes it's the time of day. Sometimes it's the day of the week. And sometimes you just don't know why something resonates with people and other things don't.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to experiment. 1,000 experiments, 10,000 experiments, knowing that most of the time you're supposed to fail. And if you have that mindset, you're gonna win. And then you're gonna join us where it's not so crowded, where people are succeeding and pivoting because we didn't quit. We simply didn't quit.
The groups and the circles that we're in, it's like everyone's just failing faster. They're failing more aggressively. They're failing at scale. So whereas maybe a newer entrepreneur will put out one Facebook post or one Instagram post and spend the next 48 hours checking back on it to see if anybody wrote anything, the successful entrepreneurs, they're either like doing stuff with ads or they're putting out all this different stuff. Like I love Gary Vee too. So he's always like, we're testing stuff. I don't care if it fails. It's just more data. It's just more information. Great. Now I know that sucks. I probably won't do that again. But even with ads, like that's the ability to fail and tweak at scale because you're putting money behind it. So, I mean, Zach, I'm sure you could even speak to this on a deeper level, but when you're running ads, you're testing things, you're figuring out the audiences. When you're running somebody's ads, especially for the first time, and if they don't have audiences built, I'm sure it's a freaking hot mess to try to like dial that in and figure out how to actually find their people. And I mean, I would love for you to just share, like, throughout the process of a launch, what is the percentage of ads that end up getting turned off because they don't convert as high as the other ones?